What's up, guys? So got a pool day coming at you today, and basically a little update where my training's at, where Terrence's training's at, where our split's going to be at. And I'm going to tell you all those secrets right after you hit that subscribe and little thumbs up button if you haven't already. I keep hearing in the comments that you guys are liking the channel, liking the content, and I need more subs. So help me out. But seriously, I appreciate everybody that is commenting, is hitting that little thumb, that is subscribing. The channel is growing. And again, I'm going to keep cranking out the good content. Again, I appreciate all the feedback you guys are giving me. So today was a pool day. Not super different from ones I've had in the past. A couple little differences here. The reason I've got a couple little differences is because I'm about to change up the split. Terrence, I believe, I could have the numbers wrong, is maybe 16, 17 weeks out from the Olympia, which makes him 14, 15 weeks out from the Arnold. And so again, he got the invite to the Arnold. He wants to win that Arnold. He will win that Arnold. So he's going to be doing it 2 weeks before the Olympia. Doesn't change a whole lot from a training standpoint. Basically, we're going to have a little bit of the same thing we normally would. Obviously, we'll have to hold on to some stuff a little bit between shows, but really not a big deal. There's just a little bit more going on, honestly, between him and his coach, John. John Meadows does all of his nutrition, all of his supplementation. I just do all the training stuff. So actually, it's a little bit more work from John, but John doesn't do anything drastic with him either. I love the way John does everything with him. So again, he keeps everything, no big changes, everything nice and calculated, slow progressive changes. So to hold conditioning or improve on conditioning, even from Arnold to the Olympia, shouldn't be a big deal for Terrence. But as far as training is concerned, I'm going to have a video following this one, so probably the next one when Terrence is here. We just couldn't get our schedules aligned today. Today was my first day back from vacation, so we're basically going to really start clicking and getting in a groove, and just couldn't get our schedules lined up today, but we'll be back on track tomorrow. So the next video you guys see, I'll be going into the split update in some detail, but basically it's going to be even different than what we've done before. So I'm not gonna tell you anything about it. I'm gonna leave you in suspense and have to wait for the next video. But the only thing I will tell you is I'm moving deadlift variations off of our leg day. I get that question so often: is where should it be? Should you have your deadlifts on a leg day? Obviously, because the main things moving basically is lower body stuff. Hips, hamstrings are the things that are extending your hips, adductors as well too. But basically all of your erectors and upper back stuff has to work to keep your spine from going into flexion, ripping in half, and to keep your scapula from just ripping off of your body. So again, it's working arguably your lower body a little bit more, but still a back exercise. So that's where all the confusion comes in. And like a lot of things on the internet, people make a way bigger deal out of it than it really needs to be, with the exception of some of the largest human beings on the planet. So if you're so huge that the load you're using and your output is so high, your form is so great, those might be the only people that I would say pretty much don't put your deadlifts on the same day as legs if you have a squat pattern. So basically having a big squat and a big deadlift on the same day might be too much. You're going to hamper performance on one or the other, and might just be enough to kind of just put you out of it for a couple days. But the people that argue about this stuff online generally aren't the biggest human beings on earth. So again, if you're watching this and you're not one of the largest human beings on earth, and I'm not talking one of the largest people in your local YMCA or Planet Fitness, the biggest guy in the smallest gym, unless you're one of those guys that's actually, on the Olympia stage, pro level, whatever it is, put them wherever your preference is. That's really the answer. And again, hopefully you have some sort of idea of the context of where that's coming from. Again, I've been meatheading, reading everything, watching everything, nerding everything as much as I possibly can in training for over 20 years now. Doing this as my profession, worked from everyone from grandma to Mr. and Mrs. Olympia. And the answer is, it's not that big of a deal. So put them where you want to put them. Again, myself not being one of the largest humans on the planet, sometimes I have them on leg day, sometimes I have them on back day. I've had them on leg day for a while. The reason I'm switching them to back day now is basically just because I want to put a little bit more focus and a little bit more effort into our squat pattern with Terrence. So getting a little bit more growth out of his quads because, again, his back's so big that we can afford a little bit more quad size, in my opinion. So I'm going to separate the two just so I can have squats earlier in the workout. If you guys haven't watched our leg workouts recently, we've been starting with an RDL variation, going to an isolated hamstring, and then moving on to squats and other stuff. So soon we'll be starting with an isolated hamstring, then going right to a squat pattern, but that's another video. So for today, that's the big difference. You'll see I started with single arm pull downs. Again, when doing a pull down to try and focus on the lats, I just love single arm variation. So again, if I'm going to give you guys a couple things different on this video, is exercise subs. Everyone always asks me, well, what do I do if I don't have that machine? Almost any pull down machine is a good option, right? So again, the advantage of that one that I have is you'll see how much the handles move, yes, which is very nice. So again, it's really good for alignment, and it's got a decent profile, so it gets a little bit lighter at the top when you're in the fully contracted position, a little bit heavier, when you're fully extended at the end of the eccentric, which again, I think is the profile you want, but not really that big of a deal. So if you don't have that, any machine, grab it with single arm, and again, you can allow yourself to line up better with where you want, whereas that arm tucking at your side, in my opinion, the best upper arm path for lat focus. The next best option, so again, I was training at a gym that's not this gym for the past 10 days, and I was just doing single arm cable pull downs. So I kind of got myself in a position where I could just basically, I know that this is what I want. That's all you guys have to figure out. This is what you want. This has nothing to do with a machine. Don't go into a machine and just go, oh, here's where the machine goes, and I got to do this now. No, you know this is what you want. Find a machine, find a position that allows you to do this. So again, if it's a different pull down than I have a machine, maybe you have to slide in the seat this way or slide in the seat that way to make it line up. If it's a cable, what I had to do for these cables, just the way they were, I had to slide a little bit to a side and actually slide back to the point where I wasn't sitting in the seat. Maybe I'll make a separate video on that, where I was actually kind of kneeling on the ground. And again, the whole reason for doing that is I want the cable coming a little bit in front of me. I don't want it pulling right over top of me, pulling me into this position. So again, if you don't have that machine, use a different machine, do the same thing. If you don't have that, cables are probably the next best option. If you're at a home gym, my next favorite is probably some sort of ring pull-up. So basically just a pull-up where you have a handle. You guys have seen before, I take the handles and I'll hook them on pull-ups handles, sometimes just the cable handle attachments. And that's a good one as well too, a good option. So pull downs first, 2 working sets there, then on to chest supported T-bar rows. Again, especially when I have a deadlift variation, I like chest supported because it allows me to have more output from my upper back stuff without having my hips or my erectors be the limiting factor. 2 working sets on that one there. Again, for that kind of stuff, I like a little bit of a wider arm path, so letting that arm path come away from the body a little bit. And I think that allows me to extend my arm further behind me, which most importantly in turn allows me to pull my shoulder blades together a little bit more. So again, if you don't have chest supported T-bar, you could do another form of T-bar, obviously just the corner rows with the handle over top of the T-bar. Probably the next best option, which everyone should have access to, is chest supported incline dumbbell rows. So again, you would literally take a bench, an incline bench, put it to 10, 20, 25 degrees, somewhere around there, chest on it, grab some dumbbells, and just reproduce the exact same arm path. From there, I went to banded RDLs. I actually tweaked my lower back a teeny bit doing RDLs on vacation. I normally have a rule where I don't do my big movements at different gyms, depending on how long I'm going to be there. So I normally don't do RDLs. I normally won't do squats too often. And the only reason I did is because I was feeling really good. And I already put them on my back day when I was there as well too. So I just did all this little stuff slightly different that just added to me tweaking my back a little bit. And I've got a fairly wrecked disc from an injury probably 8-9 years ago at this point in time, one of the worst ones that I've had. It took me a while to rehab and be the point where I can actually train hard, but I really have to do things pretty perfect to not re-aggravate that. If you ever have any disc issues, some things don't ever really completely fix, so you just have to use muscles more to help protect your spine and make sure you don't put that disc in a bad position. So basically I was doing RDLs. The couple things that I did different, again, so you can learn from my mistakes. I don't do everything perfect by a long shot. The number one thing that I did first was I felt really, really good. So I felt strong. I felt like all my warm-ups and stuff were really easy. So I warmed up too fast. I did 3 warm-up sets before my top set. I normally do at least 4 or 5. So mistake number 1, I just rushed through my warm-up sets. I was trying to work out fast. I was on family vacation, so I work out really early in the morning so I get back in time for the family and don't miss vacation stuff. So I was moving quick, feeling good. I also took them off the rack. So again, just because of the gym where it was a half rack, it already had a bar sitting on the rack. And because I'm lazy like every bodybuilder, I basically just took the bar off the rack and started doing deadlifts that way, where I almost always do them off the floor. So literally to pull off the floor, you have to be in a pretty good position already and have a lot more awareness. Whereas you walk them out of the rack, you basically find the awareness. You don't find the hardest position of the movement until you go through the eccentric. So literally taking them off the rack as opposed to the floor, some of it's just that sequence, but some of it is I just don't think I was as tight in that bottom position as I need to be. The third little thing that I did is I didn't use bands. So I was using heavier loads I've done a lot of times before, so I wasn't like trying to hit any PRs, but I didn't have bands. And so it was the second rep where I actually tweaked something, not the first rep. And so what I think happened there is with the bands, one, I like the profile better, but because it gets so much harder as you come to the top, I never relax anything, so I'm keeping things extremely tight the whole way through. And so basically when I was doing the RDLs with just a bar and no bands or anything, whether I'm thinking about it or not, because there's not as much torque at the top, I was basically, I think, just relaxing. So I wasn't keeping my torso as tight the whole time. So maybe the only good thing is as soon as I felt it, there would have been a time where I would have just ground through the rep, grinded, ground, grounded, whatever, through the rep and probably hurt myself more. As soon as I felt it, when I injure it, it feels and makes a slight audible pop, which is never a good thing. And so as soon as I had that, I just dropped the bar. It felt kind of shitty for about a week, but it felt pretty good today. So all that context is, if you guys have been seeing me doing for RDLs, I've been working up close to having, I think maybe 385 or so on the bar, 395 on the bar. And today I went up to 225, just for the reason that, honestly, it felt really good. Normally it doesn't recover quite as fast as this did. I was doing a lot of rehab stuff on it. But I just didn't want to push it today. So I told myself ahead of time a weight that I was going to do, even if it felt like cupcake, which it did. But I said I'd just stick there no matter what, just to make sure I didn't re-injure it. And even just touching a light weight, just wanted to hit that pattern again, hit that load again. And so that's why I did one set with 225, 2 warm-up sets, and then one set with 225, just for 5 reps. And the next week I'll put 50 more pounds on. So even with a really slow progression, I'll get right back up to the weight where I was pretty quickly. So anyway, I've put RDLs third in my back day, basically because I kind of want to pre-exhaust my upper back. And so basically that's something I've done a whole lot. People ask that. Also, the other question, do I do deadlifts first? Do I do deadlifts later? I could make a strong argument for both. And obviously when you're putting them on a lower body day, I like to put them earlier. On a back day, I have a slight preference for putting them later, just for the reason of I feel like I can get a little bit more out of upper back, which really isn't the goal. But also because of my first 2 movements, I'm not really fatiguing my erectors at all either. So I can put them third. And in my opinion, I have just as high of output on them as if I had them first. Whereas if I put them first, I'd have the same level of output, but I'd take away a little bit from the next 2 movements. Again, that's personal preference. That's really, again, all that little mess I gave before of the context of here's how long I've been doing this, blah, blah, I'm really smart, listen to me. That same context is I've had success both ways myself personally. I've had success both ways with clients, and I really go back to personal preference. So slight personal preference for me to have them after kind of pre-exhausted upper back movements, third movement in the pull day. So barbell RDLs. Someone's going to say, well, what if I don't have a band? Get a band and stand on it. So people have asked me if I don't have the little things to hook over the platform. If you want to do this exact workout, take a band and just set it over top of the bar, stand in either side of the loops, and there you go. You've got banded RDLs. If you don't have a band, just do RDLs. Again, the whole point of the band is I arguably think it's a little bit more efficient, a little more challenging through the range of motion. If you don't have a barbell, you're on the wrong channel, go somewhere else. So anyway, that's you can do RDLs. If you've got bands on a platform, doing the same way I did. If you don't, then put a band over. Otherwise, just normal barbell RDLs are great. And then basically going to a machine, the thing that is most like is the hammer strength low row. So if you don't have that prime extreme row, hammer strength low row is the same thing. I'm focusing mainly on upper back movement there. Lats, of course, are working as well, but my main focus is getting retraction of the shoulder blades and a teeny bit of elevation as well. So mid and upper traps. And basically did 2 working sets there and then 1 extended drop set off of that last set. And so I've just switched over to have a little bit more upper back focus on this pull day than I've had before just by switching rows. But basically any machine row on there could be a good option. From there, I went to biceps and rear delts and just a superset. I've been going to cables when I've been doing both arms, just because they line up well. I want to do both arms at the same time. It has a good profile, and I've got preacher curl variations on my other soon-to-be pull day, arm day. So basically just supersetting those to save time. Reverse pec deck has always been one of my favorites as far as rear delt exercises go, lined up properly. So superset them back and forth. Again, 2 working sets of each, and then right into a drop set on both of those. And then for a little bicep finisher, I did a little, I'm going to call it I don't know how many I did this. So it's my version of 21s, which I'm going to say is almost twice as good because it's 40s, because I did 4 sets of 10 in 4 different positions. I always thought traditional 21s are really stupid, basically because you're doing the exact same movement, the exact same basically profile. You're not really changing a whole lot. You're just breaking off a chunk, and then going the whole way through. And again, if you actually adhere to kind of what I would consider the effective reps theory, the first 2 sets, I don't even remember how you're supposed to do them. Maybe just top half first, bottom half first for 7, and then full range of motion for 7. Because the first 2 sets of 7 are so far away from failure, I don't really think you're accumulating a whole lot of effective reps. If anything, maybe you're just accumulating some fatigue. So maybe the last 5 reps of the 7 reps are effective, if that makes sense. But I still think it's just an overall weird thing that people just do because they saw someone do it. So I'd rather do more of a mechanical mechanical drop set where I'm extending a set, and in my opinion, you have a lot more effective reps. So I like to start basically keeping my hands on the cable. Some of it's just so it's quick too, a lot of fatigue, not able to take my hands off. And basically all a mechanical drop set means is you're just moving from one exercise to the next. Generally, you're starting from somewhere where you're mechanically weakest and going to somewhere you're mechanically strongest at the end. And this could be by changing, you'll see in this case, hand position, muscle length. There's a whole bunch of different ways to go about it. But basically, you're extending a set without dropping the weight. There's a lot of stuff that can go in that category of mechanical drop set. So basically, I'm choosing a position of pronation first because of all the curl variations I do, that tends to be the weakest. I did 10 there. Why 10? Kind of an arbitrary number. Just make it. That's the same as the 21s. Why are 21s so good? Who the hell knows who made that up in the first place? And people like the 7s so much that everybody copied it. And now everyone does 21s for no apparent reason. So do my 10s for no apparent reason. So I do pronated grip for 10. And you'll see I'm pretty close to failure on those last ones. So arguably those last 5 reps up towards failure are effective reps. And then from there, I'm moving into what I consider the next weak position, which is kind of an incline curl, so fully lengthened bicep position. From a muscle length standpoint, you might be slightly stronger if it were just a matter of length-tension relationship. But because of internal moment arms, you tend to be very weak in that fully extended elbow position. So that's why that one's next. 10 reps there, you'll see I'm close to failure again, so maybe accumulating another 5 effective reps. Then I'm just going to more of a traditional curl, and I'm basically overloading that mid-range, or again, I think it's the next strongest position, accumulating another 5 effective reps, and then from there going into kind of a hammer grip. So you'll see I slide that the handle on the cable, go into that hammer grip. I put my thumb on top out of comfort, so don't ask if that's something super scientific. I wasn't really thinking about it, it just went there. And then that's, in my opinion, the strongest one of all those curl variations, all having the same weight for every single one. And then I just basically made sure I took that one to failure, did some little rest pause on there or whatever, some partial reps. And so again, if you're going to do something as opposed to normal 21s, which maybe you get 5 effective reps, if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about with effective reps, just look up Chris Beardsley stuff. He's smart and has a ton of accumulated principles based on research. He's one of my favorite research guys. But I think it's a thing that one correlates great with what we know works from anecdotal standpoint, from what's worked for decades, that you have to train somewhat close to failure. And he's combined of all this information that shows basically science kind of backing up why we think that works for a lot of reasons. It has to do with fatigue, with rep speed, motor recruitment, all that good stuff. But so if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about with effective reps, Google Chris Beardsley effective reps, and you can do some research yourself, or you cannot, just take my word for it. And so anyway, as opposed to just doing the 21s, maybe getting 5 effective reps, the variation I just showed gets you 20 effective reps, basically in the same period of time or maybe a little bit longer, doing some extra reps. All that mess means is I think it's a good way to finish biceps. Again, people have known this for a long time, that your bodybuilders have done their pump work at the end of workouts. And now science shows too that you obviously at certain points in time don't need, PR weight to still have some effective stimulus. And so again, effective stimulus can come from what I showed in the beginning of the session, heavy stuff, logbook stuff, track it, progress it over time. But then also if you train close to failure, even when you're relatively fatigued, those reps can be effective as well. So when I say something like pump work, finishers, whatever, I'm just using a name that hopefully people know what the hell I'm talking about. But basically, it's just another way, in my opinion, to accumulate some more effective reps and effective volume. And then from there, you'll see that I superset abs and forearms, just because I'm trying to make myself train abs and forearms. People ask me all the time why my forearms aren't bigger. They aren't bigger, 1, because I don't train them, and then 2, I don't really have good genetics for them as well either. Obviously, I know a lot of people that have some of the biggest forearms I've ever seen in my life, that have never done a wrist curl in their life, wear straps their entire back workout. So obviously there's a genetic component to it as well. But number one reason is I've never trained them hard because I find it so boring and I don't care that much. But I want to bring them up a little bit. So I'm just pairing them with ab work and just doing them a couple days a week. So again, that's a quick way to go about it, just to do something. Wrist curls, another day I'm going to have wrist extensions, and I'm also going to do some rotation type stuff as well too. And actually, ironically enough, when I started training a bajillion years ago, all I did to start the first, I think, 6 months I trained was curls, forearms, and push-ups. And because obviously you can do that shit in your bedroom. And just had a pair of dumbbells, and I had all those gripper things, and I would bring them with me everywhere. And so the funny thing is, right when I started training, I had kind of, relatively speaking, for being emaciated looking, so I probably weighed, 140 pounds, but I had kind of bigger forearms and bigger biceps. And then I hated the fact that I didn't have a chest or delts or a back, and so I kind of stopped training. So ironically enough, right when I started training, my best body parts are now my worst body parts. I've come full circle. So anyway, I just think that's a nice way to pair them. If you guys haven't seen me do those ab mat crunches, I think that is the single most effective ab exercise because it trains them through the full contractile range. It actually has great bracing. It has a good profile. All the things I think make a good exercise. And then just doing some wrist curls with a barbell. That doesn't even line up perfectly for an exercise for me, but I'm not going to get into that. Again, just because it's a little bit quicker is one of the main reasons I do that as opposed to doing single arm dumbbell or something. And if you sat around and watched me do wrist curls and crunches, kudos for you because I fell asleep while doing them. So you should certainly fall asleep while watching them. But that's it. So that is my current pull day. I'll be running that in some way, shape, or form for the next couple months, hopefully. I'm still going to talk back and forth with Terrence, so we'll kind of finalize the split because I always take his feedback, even more than mine, honestly, into exercise selection because he's getting on the Arnold stage and the Olympia stage. And I joke that I just pose in my bedroom for my wife every single night, and she doesn't even want to see me do that. So his training now is a little bit more important than mine. So I always tailor my stuff based off of what's working and feels best for him as well, too. So if we make any tweaks or adjustments, you guys will be the first to know. But we'll probably be running some sort of variation of this again for basically right up to the show. And then we'll just rotate what I do for pump work sometimes, adjust volume a little bit here and there while he's still well fed. We'll probably crank up volume just a teeny bit, but really just kind of progress right on through until he gets on stage. So that is it. Newest pull day in the books. And we'll be going through the whole split in the next few video for you guys. So stay tuned. And again, keep sharing, keep liking, keep thumbs up. And if you didn't thumbs up, I do this thing when I watch other channels and they'll say all that in the beginning and I'll just nod right through it. It's like the same thing like when I want to buy something and I'll see my wallet like 8 feet away from me and I don't want to get it and I'll think about it and then I just won't do it. Someone right now is watching this and you thought about it, which is nice. I appreciate the thought. But if you haven't tapped it, get some effort, pick up your finger, tap that little thumbs up, tap that subscribe. I appreciate that. That's one of the best thank yous I can get for the content that I'm trying to pump out for you guys for free for now, right? I don't know if YouTube will eventually start charging for shit. Who knows? But anyway, I appreciate all you guys. And until the next one, peace.